I said Buffalo on a podcast this morning, but I reserve the right to change my mind. And I I think I'm gonna go Boston in 7. I I said Buffalo in 7 this morning. I'm gonna flip here. I'm gonna flip flop here. And one of the reasons I said Buffalo in 7 this morning is because the Bruins haven't been a great road team this year. So are they gonna go into Buffalo on the road and win game 7? You know what? I think I'm gonna pick Boston in 7 here. And if I'm wrong, at least I'm wrong with my heart, right? So I'll happily be wrong with this one. Um, but I think it goes either way. It's definitely going to go 6 or 7, probably 7. Moving along, let's go to Montreal and Tampa Bay. Now, this series, again, you talk about styles making fights. Same exact thing as the Bruins and the Sabres. Different teams, different varying degrees, but Montreal, they have some grit with a guy like Josh Anderson, Brendan Gallagher if he's playing, Arbor Jackeye. They have some guys with some grit, but basically Montreal is all skill and finesse, and they're younger, they're smaller at certain positions. Nick Suzuki's not the biggest guy. Cole Caulfield, not the biggest guy. Lane Hudson, not the biggest guy. So when you compare that to Tampa Bay, I just think that you're talking about a young skill team in Montreal that's going up against a bigger veteran team in Tampa Bay. There are a couple of notable injuries right now, one for Tampa and one for Montreal. Or Tampa is not an injury, it's an absence though. Victor Hedman has been gone for a personal leave of absence for quite some time, and to my knowledge, he's not going to be in the lineup for Tampa Bay. So that's a big loss for Tampa in this series against Montreal. Montreal right now is without Noah Dobson. So I don't know if Dobson's out for a while or if he's day to day, but those are two key guys on the respective back ends. I think the Hedman loss is bigger for Tampa. So by the numbers here, Montreal plus 27 goal differential on the year. That's 9th in the NHL. Tampa Bay plus 59, 2nd in the NHL. Shots per game, Montreal 26.3, which is 24th. Kind of surprising. That did surprise me a bit because they are such a highly skilled team that they only generate the 24th most shots in the NHL this year. Tampa Bay, they generate 28.1 shots per game. That's 14th in the NHL. So Tampa Bay generates more than Montreal does. And Tampa Bay also prevents more per game than Montreal. Tampa Bay gives up 26.7 shots per game, which is 25th in the NHL. And Montreal gives up 27.8 shots per game, which is 15th. So it's 25th fewest for Tampa Bay. On the power play, Montreal, 23.1%. They're 10th in the league. Tampa Bay is 20.7. That's 17th in the NHL. That's shockingly low for Tampa Bay. When you have Nikita Kucherov and you're 17th in the NHL, Darren Raddysh has had a great year for Tampa Bay too on the back end. So that is a bit surprising to me, especially with Kucherov and Gensel and Hagel. And on the penalty kill, though, Tampa Bay has the far better PK. They're third, clicking at 82.6% kill rate. Montreal, 78.2%, which is 18th in the NHL. And then Tampa Bay is the most penalized team. So when it comes to the Bruins, they say, hold my beer. Tampa Bay is the most penalized team in the NHL with over 1,200 penalty minutes. But as I said, they have the third best PK. So that's the big difference between the Bruins and the Lightning is both teams are heavily penalized, but Tampa Bay has one of the best PKs in the league. Boston has, among the bottom third. So at the end of the day, I see this one going either direction. I ultimately question Cole Caulfield had 50 goals this year. He's a small, undersized forward. Will he be the same scoring threat in a 7-game series against a bigger, experienced Tampa Bay team with Andrei Vasilevsky in net over 7 games? Can Lane Hudson do what he does in the regular season when Tampa Bay is game planning for him and strategizing for him and being physical on him. So I personally like Montreal's forward group 1 through 12 better. I think Tampa Bay has the better top 6, and they have the best player in the series, and Nikita Kucherov. I can see Montreal winning this series, but ultimately, I think they have the nod in goaltending, and I think they have the best player in the series. And I do think that their size and their experience, to me, I have to give them the nod. And if Montreal wins, it won't surprise me. But I will, out of respect to Tampa Bay and what they've done and what they've accomplished, I'll give them the nod here. And simply put, from Montreal, I need to see it to believe it. I have to see it from them. So I could pick them, but I'd be probably just kind of banking on their youth and speed and skill. It's a different game in the postseason. They very well could win the series. They very well could. I think Victor Hedman's a big loss for Tampa Bay. And I don't love Tampa Bay's bottom 6. I really don't. But there's more to it than that. And Tampa Bay deserves the benefit of the doubt right now in my mind. So I'll go Tampa Bay in 7. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, 2 teams that have the same amount of points. So the Battle of Pennsylvania is back at it, alive and well, and I can't wait for the series either. Philadelphia has some good young players. They have Porter Martone, who they just brought in from Michigan State. He's their 6th overall pick from last year's draft. They have Michkov, who's a younger winger that is, he's trying to find his game. You have Trevor Zegras. You have Jamie Drysdale on the back end, Cam York. You have Travis Konechny. You have Owen Tippett. Sean Couturier is a good veteran leader. There are some other guys, Tyson Forrester. So I like a lot that Philly has to offer. And you kind of compare that to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's kind of in some ways, with some players, they're the opposite, right? They have the Sidney Crosby, they have the Chris Letang, the Erik Karlsson, the Evgeny Malkin, Rickard Rakell. They have guys that have been there and done that. Brian Rust, right? So they have a lot of experience on their side. They do have some young guys too, like Ben Kindle. I like Chinikov. Chinikov they got from Columbus. So, Pittsburgh has some youth too, but they're obviously more cut from the veteran cloth than Philadelphia is. So both teams finished with 98 points, but a lot of the underlying numbers to me favor Pittsburgh. For example, goal differential, Pittsburgh plus 25, Philly plus 7. Shots per game, Pittsburgh 28.6, 10th in the NHL. Philly 25.5, 28th in the NHL. So Philly doesn't generate that much. Shots against per game, Philadelphia 25.5. That's 29th fewest. So Philadelphia doesn't generate a ton, but they also don't give up a ton. So hats off to them there. Pittsburgh 27.4, which is 21st fewest. So not as good as Philly, but still they're one of the top. They're one of the best 10, 11 teams in the league at eliminating chances. Special teams is where Pittsburgh really runs away with the analytics here. Philadelphia is dead last on the power play in the NHL at 15.7%. Pittsburgh is 7th, clicking at 24.1%. So Pittsburgh with the clear advances on the power play. Again, Philly has talent on their power play, and I think the addition of Porter Martone net front helps them a lot. Trevor Zegras can zip it around, right? Travis Konechny is a good player. So Philly has talent, but over 82 games, the numbers, you are what the numbers say you are. I will just notate here that Porter Martone not being there all year, had he been there all year as a net front guy, maybe they're not 32nd, maybe they're 25th, right? But still, Pittsburgh with the decisive edge in the power play. And on the penalty kill, Philadelphia 22nd in the league, 77.6%. And Pittsburgh is 6th at 81.4. So Pittsburgh has 2 top 10 special teams units. Good for them, right? So ultimately, I just think that Pittsburgh is going to find a way around the margins to get the win here. I think they have more experience. They're a better team analytically, and they have home ice advantage for what that's worth. So I think it's going to be a good series. I'm going to go Pittsburgh in 6, and then for our final Eastern Conference playoff series prediction and preview, we're going to go to Ottawa versus Carolina. Now this is a series. You have Carolina, who is first place in the Eastern Conference. They're first place in the Metro Division, so they draw Ottawa as wild card 2. 113 points in the year for Carolina, 99 for Ottawa. Bit of a discrepancy there, but I'll tell you, the numbers would tell you that these two teams, in a lot of ways, they're closer than that would make you think. So let's start with goal differential. Ottawa, plus 32, 7th in the NHL. Carolina, plus 56, that's 3rd. Okay. So Ottawa's top 10. So is Carolina, but Carolina's top 3. So advantage Carolina there. Shots per game, Carolina is 2nd in the league. Ottawa's 9th. So once again, Ottawa's sitting there saying, hey, we're a top 10 team in the league statistically. But then Carolina's saying, yeah, we're top 3. See ya. Shots against per game. Again, here's Ottawa allowing 24.4 shots per game. That's 30th fewest in the NHL out of 32 teams. You want to wager a guess who number 32 is? It's Carolina. They give up the fewest shots per game at 23.9. So every metric I've said so far, Ottawa's been a top 10 team. Obviously, the shots against, the lower you're ranked, the better you are, right? So it's not saying that Carolina is the 32nd worst. It's saying that they give up the 32nd fewest. So that's a good thing. On the power play, Ottawa, 8th power play in the league. Carolina, 4th. So Ottawa can't win for losing when it comes to these metrics. They're a top 10 team in every metric so far, but so is Carolina, and Carolina is just that much better than them. On the penalty kill is where Carolina really has an advantage here. Ottawa has the 29th penalty kill in the league. Carolina has the 11th best. So the numbers here would tell you that Carolina, is just slightly better than Ottawa throughout the course of the regular season. And then on the penalty kill, they're much better. And then as far as discipline goes, they're also more disciplined. They are the 26th fewest penalized team, the Hurricanes are, and Ottawa is the 8th most penalized team. So Carolina's more disciplined. Their special teams are that much better. And then at 5-on-5, they're both similar, but Carolina's just a little bit better. Now, I think the X factor here is also goaltending, because Carolina's goaltending has been Jekyll and Hyde this year. Ottawa's goaltending has been Jekyll and Hyde. And, it's been a story off the ice too with Linus Ullmark's mental health. So I like both of these teams. I mean, obviously, like I said last episode, I think Carolina is kind of boring. They don't have a lot of superstars. They're not a fun brand of hockey necessarily, but you have to respect what they do, and they have a lot of good players. I think that Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Seth Jarvis, Logan Stankoven, Nikolai Ehlers, Jordan Stahl's a good veteran center iceman up the middle in their middle 6. Taylor Hall can still play. Jordan Martinhook can play pretty well. So Carolina, they're not the sexiest team up front, but they have guys that can contribute. And on the back end, they have Jacob Slavin leads them defensively. I think Jacob Slavin and Gustav Forsling for Florida, I would say, are the 2 best defensive defensemen in the NHL. I mean, flip a coin who you want to say is first. But he has a good supporting cast. They have the young Russian on the back end. Is it Nikishin? I might be saying his last name wrong. But he's a good young defenseman, strong kid. You have Keandre Miller back there. Shane Goss is fair. Chatfield. They have Chatfield too. So yeah, they have a good blue line. But the Senators, I like the Senators team a lot too. Tim Stutzla, Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson, Claude Giroux, Dylan Cousins. I like Dylan Cousins a lot. They have there's others too. And then on the back end, you have Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, Jordan Spence. There's a lot to like for both these teams. I feel like Ottawa might win this series, but I'm just going to go off of I know how Carolina constantly plays. They're a very consistent team, whereas Ottawa can be a little Jekyll and Hyde at times. And I'll say home ice plays a factor here. I'll go Carolina in 7.